2024 is going to be a kindergarten party compared to what happens in 2025. 2025, again, I believe there's going to be a failure to deliver. Once that happens, who knows where the prices can go? Forget about charts. You forget about everything. You're gonna, when all is said and done, count your net worth in ounces. Make sure you have enough food for, I'm going to say, a minimum 3 to 6 months, preferably much, much longer. I mean, you need to be able to have a source of clean water. Without water, you're going to die. You need an energy source. People up north, in the northern hemisphere, people up north, how are you going to heat your home? Get yourself right physically. Get yourself right mentally, financially, spiritually. Get ready for a war, because that's what this is. That's what this is.
Welcome to Capital Cosmo, everybody. Today's guest is Bill Holter. Bill, thank you so much for coming on the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me back, Danny.
Yeah, for sure. Bill, I'll let you steer the conversation whichever way you want it to start. What is the top story for you right now? What is front and center for you on your radar screen?
I guess in the last few hours, the top story's got to be that Putin smoked Kiev.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a big, big return.
And then, did you see what he said afterwards? Did you get his comments afterwards or no?
I've not seen the comments.
Yeah. So he's basically said that NATO has declared war on Russia. He didn't say Russia declared war on NATO, but if one entity declares war on you, you would anticipate war to be declared on them as well.
Yeah, that's huge. And if you think about it, I mean, you've got the war hawks in the West, the United States. I mean, it looks like they absolutely want a hot war before January 20th. And it would be my guess that they would try to postpone the inauguration or actually kick the table over altogether, because they understand there's going to be legal ramifications to a lot of individuals once Trump becomes, once he's in. So, maybe they're trying to kick the table over completely so that those crimes become minuscule compared to the current reality.
Are you referring to enacting emergency powers during the times of war to stop an incoming administration? So then the Biden admin would have to stay indefinitely then?
I guess. I mean,
or something to that effect.
I'm not something to that effect, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I have said for years, Danny, that in the very end, they will kick the table over, and they'll kick it over so bad that it would be years and years, if ever, that you'd get, discovery or people being arrested for the, illegal shit that they've done.
Yeah, it's going to be messy for sure. And this doesn't appear to be retaliation for the killing of the Russian general a few days back. I don't know if you remember that. But, Yep. They just killed that guy in Russia, a top general.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, plus, they're launching the ATACMS missiles inside of Russia. I mean, they're pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah, apparently the attack on the Defense Ministry building today was a receipt for those ATACMS missiles. Now the receipt still hasn't been dished out for the killing of that general, so we're still waiting on retaliation from that general. So it may get worse. I mean, as things progress, towards the end of the year.
Well, that's what the current administration hopes, is that it gets worse, and that Putin does lose his temper and, retaliates in a broad manner. And there you go. You got a hot World War III. And I think that's exactly what they want, because that's what they need.
Yeah, I mean, we are at the time of this recording here on December 20th, we are 30 days or 31 days away from the inauguration. I mean, this is going to be a long 31 days.
I would guess.
Yeah, especially I don't know if you saw the news yesterday. Both Kamala and Biden cut their vacations
I
short, and
saw.
they came back into DC for some reason. And if you look at
Why?
the body language, yeah, if you look at the body language on Biden, I don't know if did you see the footage of him walking
Not
across the
seen it.
lawn? But he
No.
had this petrified look on his face. Um, I don't know if it was just because he was hopped up on drugs or what,
Who
but
knows?
yeah, but it's very interesting. It does appear like there's something going on behind the scenes. Of course, it could just be due to the government shutdown. Um, government shut down. I
And
mean, the government's not going to shut down. It's just going to be national parks shutting down, and things like that. The defense spending isn't going to shut off anytime soon.
no,
For example.
no,
So
but like you said, it is going to be a very interesting 31 days to get there.
yeah, yeah. So what do you see ahead for 2025? As we head towards the new year.
I think it all comes to a head in 2025. I think 2025 is the year. And what bolsters that thought process is I just posted this 3 or 4 days ago. The Bank of England announced that if they bail out any non bank institutions, they're not going to say who they are.
Hmm.
I mean, first off, why are they bailing out non bank institutions? But if they're telling us they're not going to tell you who it is, that tells you 2025 because it begins January 1st,
Hmm.
2025. So it tells you this year they foresee something happening where they're not going to tell you who they're bailing out.
Why would they want to do that? What's the rationale behind it?
I don't know, not to not spill the beans on who's insolvent, so that they don't get put out of business. It did kind of surprise me because the way I understand it, and I mean, just if you look at uh, if you look at the great taking, there's not going to be bailouts. There's going to be bail-ins. So it
Hmm.
very well may be that we have bail-ins of financial institutions, banks, and there may be bailouts of non-bank financial institutions. It's hard to say, but it's really curious that the Bank of England would come up with this as of January 1st, that they're not going to tell you who they're bailing out. And don't forget, I mean, go back to 2008. The Fed bailed out the world. They lent out what, 16, 17 trillion dollars, and we didn't find out about that for 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. I mean, they've got the economy hopped up on Bitcoin and Fartcoin, and the Nasdaq dripping higher today. So I mean, it seems like it's good times are here again, at least from a stock market perspective. But you peel back the onion, you look at the economy. The economy doesn't appear to be doing too well. Why is there a disconnect between the two?
Well, it's that's simple. The markets are rigged. I mean, they
Hmm.
rig markets with derivatives. What they want to go up, they buy, and what they want to suppress, they sell. So I mean, yeah, they're rigging uh, equity markets higher. They're rigging. I mean, they're trying to provide a floor under the credit markets. And I've said all along that when this thing breaks, it will be the credit markets that break.
Right.
And what very well could break the credit markets, you're starting to see bigger and bigger demand deliveries for both silver and gold. And I believe there's going to be a failure to deliver. I think it'll start in silver. Uh, Gold will immediately go into the same manner of non-delivery, and that will break confidence. And what happens to a Ponzi scheme when it can no longer get further new capital? That new capital comes from sovereigns, originally from sovereigns being able to borrow.
So what happens then if they can't get the capital?
Well, it's completely over. the Ponzi scheme collapses, interest rates shoot through the roof, the real economy stops because credit stops, and I mean, you could every day you wake up, you're only 72 hours away from a Mad Max scenario.
Mm. Are you
And
familiar with?
without credit, you're going to see Mad Max because nothing, and I do mean nothing, runs without credit in today's world.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood. It's the lifeblood of society. Are you familiar with the Deagel stats by any chance?
Yes,
So for
and
those who may, yeah,
that's 2025,
yeah, we're heading into
and they
2025, and
right,
so
yeah, they forecast the population collapse, die off in 2025.
yeah, so for people who may not know, the Deagel stats are a population forecast of. They actually forecasted every single country on Earth. And we don't know who this group is. It appears that they were like some sort of military related firm that does consulting or something to that effect. But it's by and large mysterious. But essentially, back in 2017, they published a list of forecasts for 2025 and by way of the populations for each country. And interestingly enough, all of the Western countries see like something along the lines of a 60% to 70% to 80% population reduction mysteriously. And we still don't know what the rationale is to this day behind those stats. Although they published like a little descriptor. They said, "Oh, because the economy would collapse and you see mass migration out of the United States." I'm not so sure about that. I mean, what do you think, Bill? I mean, would a credit event create this Mad Max scenario and elicit this mass, reduction of the population?
Yeah, I don't believe that there's an exodus coming at all. I think there's a die off coming.
Mm.
And if you shut credit off, food becomes unavailable. I mean, even fresh food will rot on pallets waiting to be shipped. Shipping will stop. Everything will stop. The average person has no food stored up. So within 30 days or 60 days, you're going to see an immediate, blast of people dying just because they don't have food. Um, I also believe, and I don't really want to get your, if you do YouTube, is that where you put your
Yeah, this is on
videos?
YouTube. Yeah, this is on YouTube.
Okay, so I'll just use. And it may be that it takes 2 years, 3 years, 4 years for this to get through everyone's system, and you start to see even a higher turbocharged die off. I mean, we're seeing cancers, we're seeing blood clots, we're seeing heart problems, and it's across the board. I mean, this is not just old people. I mean, you're seeing young athletes, 16, 17, professional athletes in their early mid 20s at the best shape of their lives, just falling down dead. So, is that part of it? Was that part of the original rationale? I would imagine it probably was.
Mm. And I mean, and even whether it is or it isn't a credit event, a credit crash, a debt solvency crash. I mean, there's so many bubbles out there, right? I mean, this could all just create mass chaos.
Right. And what will happen is you basically get a deflation in everything that you own and a hyperinflation of the things you need, like food. If there's no credit, all of a sudden, an apple or a dozen eggs is, if you can find it, $10, $20, $100, $2,000, who knows? But the stuff that you have is going to deflate. Your stocks, your retirement plan, your real estate, all of that's going to deflate because if there's no credit that allows new buyers the ability to bid on those assets, the assets go with no bid and only offers, and they'll drive the prices, I mean, literally to being worthless. If there's no credit available, you're looking at assets being priced at pennies on the dollar.
Where has this happened before that you can kind of look to as a reference?
Uh, it's never happened on a grand scale, but
Hmm.
certainly you've had governments that have been shut off from the credit markets, and what happens is their currencies hyperinflate. Look at Argentina. Look at Brazil. Look at Zimbabwe. Look at Russia in 1990. When countries are no longer able to borrow, then you get deflation of their assets, and the countries go into survival mode. The Weimar Republic was a different. That was different because it was done by basically call it printing alone. And back then, you had other currencies that were still tied to gold. There are no currencies anywhere on the planet tied to gold. And like I said in the past, I mean, when you looked at, the nations, Colombia, Venezuela, etc., there was always an alternative to those countries. Right now, I mean, the alternative is U.S. dollars. Now, if this happens on a global scale, where is there to hide? What currency is there to hide in? There are none. There are only two monies, gold and silver, that you can hide in. And I mean, you're not going to be able to get gold or silver because once they fail to deliver, nobody's going to sell it for any currency of any amount until the system begins to reboot and we have currencies that are, in fact, again, ratio backed by gold and silver.
Right. And, kind of to take it back to the Deagel stats thing, what you'll notice in those population forecasts is that it's not ubiquitous. The population reduction stuff is not ubiquitous at all. It's only the Western countries that end up facing these reductions. If you look at some of the stats on Russia, China, the BRICS nations, their populations actually slightly grow. So it's very interesting that the countries with the biggest debt problems are the ones being forecasted to reduction.
Right. And along with the biggest debt problem, uh, there's speculation. There's obviously speculation on the United States as to whether or not we hold the gold that we say we hold. There's speculation on other countries whether that their gold actually exists. I think there's very little speculation whether China or Russia or you could lump in India because they've been a big buyer. I mean, these countries, these central banks have been big buyers of gold now for 10, 15 years. And China has actually been grossly underreporting what they've bought. I mean, if you look at what has gone through Shanghai, and we know nothing's exported, so the gold goes into the country, but we know it never goes out. I mean, how many tons per year? You're looking at, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tons per year going in. It's not coming out. We also know that China produces 450 tons a year, which never comes out of the country. So the West has a debt problem. It's speculative as to whether or not they actually hold the gold reserves they say, but the BRICS nations absolutely hold more gold than they did last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They've been building their gold reserves higher. And the old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules, that's going to come into effect in 2025.
Hey guys, quick pause. I won't take too much of your time, but if you're looking to add into your gold and silver stack, please consider Miles Franklin. More specifically, email them, info@milesfranklin.com, and tell them that Capital Cosmos sent you in the subject line to unlock special pricing that you won't find on the website. In the unlikely event that you don't like the prices, you could always not buy. There's no commitment necessary, but I do recommend Miles Franklin for a number of reasons. The customer support is top notch, the prices are great, and I know the people there. Great people all around. So with all that said, let's get back to the video. Thanks, guys. So the United States has the paper power. And what do I mean by that? Number one, they can print money out of thin air. They have the world reserve currency. And then they have the COMEX. They have the gold paper market. So if I'm the United States, why don't I just print a bunch of money, go buy a bunch of gold, buy tomorrow's gold at today's prices, essentially, the cancel on effect, and then just manipulate the markets down lower so it doesn't create a price spike. I mean, it sounds like a natural. It seems like things would fall in place then. No, then it just boggles the mind as to why the United States is not buying more gold while the other Eastern banks certainly are.
Because they can't do it. The gold does not exist to fill up the coffers. I mean, they would be competing with Russia. They'd be competing with India. They'd be competing with China. They're having a hard enough time keeping the price down without them buying. If they added buying, there's only so much. What is it? Call it 3,800 tons produced worldwide, and that's already spoken for. And silver's already in a huge deficit. So there's no way. Yeah, they can print the money and they can buy contracts on gold or silver, but can they get those delivered? I don't think so. I think it's impossible.
Interesting. What do you see for gold and silver heading into 2025? We had a legendary 2024, seeing, I think it was like almost a 50% move up in the gold price from 2,000 to 2,800 almost, or over to 2,800. What do you see moving forward for the metals?
I think 2024 is going to be a kindergarten party compared to what happens in 2025. 2025, again, I believe there's going to be a failure to deliver. Once that happens, who knows where the prices can go? Forget about charts. You forget about everything. You're gonna when all is said and done, count your net worth in ounces, and because this is it's a Western credit problem, and when credit breaks, you're going to see institution after institution fail in domino fashion, and I think the great taking will definitely be in place before the end of 2025. And like I said, people ask me, oh, well, give me a forecast. You can't forecast an Armageddon-like market. And you cannot do it mathematically either because, A, we don't know how much in dollar terms. A, we don't know how much gold the U.S. really has, and we don't know how much credit they're going to try to borrow, nor how much money supply they're going to print. So you don't have a numerator and you don't have a denominator. So you can't come up with a number. How much is each gold ounce worth that the U.S. government owns divided by the amount of credit that they owe? You can't do that math because you don't know the top or the bottom number for sure.
If I were China or Russia, what's stopping me from just adopting a gold standard and just crushing the dollar? Like, why are they? It seems like they're holding back a bit.
Simple. Yeah, they are absolutely holding back. Would you want to be the nation that blows up the entire Western financial system and literally start World War III? No, they don't have to do that. They can stand back and let us just die on our own. Let our bubbles blow up. Let us our own the harvest of what we've sown. So, there's no reason for them to push. They don't have to push. They don't even have to push a tiny, tiny bit to knock us over. The West is gonna collapse completely on its own, and they know this. It's math. They're smarter than I am. They're smarter than you are. They know this. If we know it, they know it.
It's Sun Tzu's Art of War, right? When don't interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake.
Exactly.
So, So it appears that the market sold off a couple of days back after Powell made his comments about the 25 basis point cut. It was originally supposed to be 50 basis points, I believe, and then they reduced it down to 25. Can the Fed really afford to be less dovish than the market wants it to be, or will they eventually capitulate down to the zero bound?
Well, first off, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you could zero bound interest rates again, and where were we in 2019, the end of the year, just before COVID hit? We
Like three
were
something?
on the well, we had come up a little bit off of zero, but we were still pretty close to zero bound. I
Hmm.
mean, if you looked at short term treasuries, they were half a percentage point. So it's not going to make a difference because by the end of 2029, we had a repo problem, and then all of a sudden, COVID came along and fixed it. COVID shut the real economy down. It lowered the demand for credit. It bailed them out, and it also allowed them to create trillions of dollars and spray those trillions all over the world like a fire hose. So that reflated. But here we are, back to where interest rates were, what, 2008, 2009, before that crash. If you look at a chart, you'll see that interest rates never rebounded higher than the previous high until now. Now we're back to the previous high, but that had never happened from 1982 until 2008. Every peak was lower than the previous one for the next cutting cycle because they were blowing bubbles along the way. Bubbles would blow up, they'd lower interest rates, blow the bubbles up again. We're done with that. We've reached debt saturation worldwide. The difference between now and 2008 is that in 2008, there was still ability of sovereign treasuries and central banks to take on more debt. We've reached credit saturation, debt saturation. So there is sovereigns and central banks were the white knights in 2008. Who's the white knight now? Who's going to bail out the governments? Who's going to bail out the central banks? No one.
How do you prep for something like this? Go ahead.
Well, you need to prep with the mindset that you're going to be on your own, as in like no cell phone, no computer, and it doesn't matter who you're going to call. You're going to dial 911. Nobody's going to answer. You need to figure you're going to do that for 2 or 3 months, 6 months. Who knows? The other thing I was going to say is, the Federal Reserve knows that there's going to be reaction to what they say. And, these people are crazy. And I have said that, they could be so crazy that they nuke a city somewhere in the United States before January 20th. Would that stop the transfer of power? Would something less severe like pulling the rug on markets and no longer supporting anything and just let them crash? What would happen in that instance if you had banks failing and the banking system closed before January 20th? Would there be a handoff of power? I think that's where we are now, is you've got to look at what are the potentials or the possibilities of something happening where the transfer of power does not happen, because that's what those in power now are striving for.
Hmm. Going back on the prepping side of things, if this, if or when this thing starts to transpire and unwind, more specifically, right, we shouldn't anticipate any 911 calls or the usual public services that we've become accustomed to. If you had like a broad checklist, like what should be the game plan of an average person?
Make sure you have enough food for, I'm going to say, a minimum 3 to 6 months, preferably much, much longer. I mean, you need to be able to have a a source of clean water. Without water, you're going to die. You need an energy source. People up north, in the northern hemisphere, people up north, how are you going to heat your homes? Do you have, if you do it with wood, how much wood have you prepared for? A week or two, a month or two, get you through the full winter? Who knows? You also need to be able to protect yourself. You need to be able to protect your position, because there's probably 9 plus people that have very little to nothing stored or a plan to survive this. And if you've got a father with little kids and a family that has no food, what are they going to do? They're going to go looking for food. And if you're one who has food, they're going to try to take it from you. So you need, lead is another precious metal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Desperation, desperate times call for desperate measures. Anything else you want to talk about, Bill? I think we've covered a whole host of things here so far. Anything that comes to mind before we wrap up?
Yeah, I've spoken on this a bunch of times. Just do the best you can. Make a plan and do the best you can. And whether it's your best or not. I mean, nobody else knows other than you. But do the best you can. And I guarantee you're going to forget stuff. I'm going to forget stuff. The best prepper in the world is going to forget stuff. Don't beat yourself up. But do get yourself prepared spiritually, mentally, physically. I have been striving. My personal situation, I just recently, I've got pinched nerves in my lower back. And the doctor is telling me, well, we can give you some shots. And that's not a permanent solution. The system goes down. I'm not getting those shots. So I've pushed the process as quickly as I can to get a permanent surgery done, because when this comes down, if I can't walk, I'm a liability. I'm not an asset. So get yourself right physically, get yourself right mentally, financially, spiritually. Get ready for a war, because that's what this is. That's what this is. And I mean, you can look backwards and not prospectively. Have we not been in a war for at least, for many, many more years than 5 years? But it's obvious since COVID started. Have we not been in a war? We're in a war for your ability to speak. We're in a war for your ability to control whether or not they stay in your body. We're in multiple wars, but they've been brought upon us, spread apart, and slowly, so that it's not like they're just dumping the whole thing on you all at once. People are like, well, this is the new normal. Then tomorrow, this is the new normal. People have been accepting of it. But if you put somebody from the year 2000, pre 9/11, into today's world, you'd blow their mind. And think back yourself. You used to be able to get on an airplane without getting, anally probed by TSA. Just everything has changed, and the amount of regulations have doubled, tripled, quadrupled. Life doesn't even resemble what it did 24 years ago, before 9/11.
Is there any hope with Trump that he would be able to roll back a lot of this, a lot of these regulations? Maybe turn back the, turn a lot of these things back, so to speak, and be like a momentary doorstop, if you will.
I would say, yeah, there's hope, but let's see. And I'm saying let's see because of some of his cabinet picks, and because what law is it look like they're wanting to put on the books right off the bat? The anti-Semite law. If you criticize Israel, criticize Judaism, it's against the law. I mean, when in the United States have you not been able to criticize someone in the public square? And now it becomes a crime. So I don't know. You can hope that it's a stop or a pause, but wanting to put that law on the books in the first few days, to me, that doesn't make me hopeful.
Hmm. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a wild ride. I mean, assuming that he even makes it to the inauguration, assuming that we actually do have an inauguration.
Exactly.
That's to your point. So we'll see. I mean, let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think lies ahead for us in 2025? Bill, it's been a pleasure having you on, my friend. Tell people how they can get in touch with you.
You can go to my website. It's just billholter.com. There is a contact icon on the page. If you want to contact me directly regarding precious metals business, my business email is bholter at proton.me.
Okay, we'll have the links to all that down below, guys. So be sure to check it out if you're interested. Also, tell them that Capital Cosm sent you in the subject line, and when you're asking for your gold and silver from Bill, I'd really appreciate that. And finally, like the video, comment down below. If you agreed with what Bill had to say, type "Go Bill Go" in the comments section. If you disagreed with anything, let me know. I do read the comments, so really interested to get your take here, guys. Subscribe to the channel too. It's free, doesn't cost a thing, and it goes a long way in supporting me in my work. And then finally, if you want to support me more so monetarily, then check out my Substack, capitalcosm.substack.com. Link to that is also down below. In my Substack, you'll be able to get ad-free and early content before the YouTube audience does. So with all that said, thank you guys for watching. Bill, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Bye, y'all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, too.